Hey y'all, okay, so welcome back to the channel, and I am in the painting room. Basically, I'm starting my next project, and I had to restart it a couple of times. Here are the supplies that I'll be using: my turpenoid, my rag that I've had for like years that's covered in paint. I'll be using burnt sienna and raw sienna, that's my paint thinner. I'll be using refined linseed oil, and I made this concoction of like refined linseed oil, turpentine, and liquid. Basically, the concoction that I made, I'm basically gonna use that for the entirety of like the glazing process just because I kind of need to dry sort of fast. I've talked to other people about like liquid. I don't personally really use liquid that often unless I'm required, not like required to, but like doing the glazing process. But I've asked other people who their way of painting is the glazing process if they use liquid, and they said no. They said that they don't like the way that liquid gives this like plastic look to the painting, which I personally haven't noticed, but maybe I just don't have the eye for that yet. But I've talked to people who use like linseed oil. Either they'll like start off with paint thinner and then they'll work their way to using just linseed oil in the painting for their layers, which is very interesting. And I kind of want to try that just to see how much of a difference that using linseed oil over liquid will make to my, well, the difference to my paintings. Right now, I'm just doing like the subtracting method, and I'm just wiping off like what I've put on the board to kind of put in my composition. And honestly, this is like the fourth time I've restarted the composition. Mind you, this is like after hours. So I was in class for 3 hours, just constantly restarting. And it was just because I didn't like the composition and I just knew it wasn't like correct. I will say during the whole process, I think it was very frustrating just because, well, I put this on to myself. Like even my professor was like, "Well, I didn't pick your picture. Okay, do you want me to hurt you?" So, okay, so basically our project was either we could have done a still life with just like objects, which I didn't want to do because I just think it's so boring, or we could have done a still life with like figures. And so I added figures even though I know it's pretty challenging for me to paint figures. In order for me to get better, I'm gonna have to practice. So that's exactly what I did. I necessarily need to pick 3 figures? No, I probably could have done one. But all of the photos where I had just one figure, I didn't really like, and I just liked the composition of the reference that I ended up picking. So yeah, we're going with the flow now. Now in the process, I'm just defining some of the elements that I have in my painting. And honestly, a lot of those elements I ended up switching anyway, but I just needed to start on something just because I can't just keep restarting. So we have to go. And also, compared to the rest of my class, I was the only person still working on the underpainting compared to everyone else. Everyone else still had like color. So then I was just thinking maybe I'm just too much in my head and we just need to start because yeah, sometimes you just need to start, whether it's looking perfect or whatever. And I do think my professor was thinking that I was trying to get perfection. But in my mind, I feel like I wasn't. I just wanted to be happy with the composition and I just wasn't. Also, we're gonna sidetrack for a second. I just want to hear you guys' thoughts on the content that you would rather see. Okay, so I was thinking, should I just have separate vlogs for my ceramics and painting or keep them together? I think for this section, I just had a bunch of painting footage because the footage from this was from like weeks ago. And then I ended up bringing my camera in when I was rushing to finish up like the painting that I've started on, I guess. So I don't know. I'd just like to hear you guys' thoughts. Like, do you guys like looking at both or just one? But yeah. I wanted to speak a little bit more about my painting process. Well, more so how I got the reference. So I wanted to depict like black dandyism. I just think black dandyism is beautiful and nobody really talks about it. At least in my opinion, I feel like no one really talks about it. And I just, so all my friends, like we all got dressed up and we went to, I think we got this photo in front of the library, but we also had photos in the secret garden, which was hard for me to decide on whether I wanted to do the photos from like in front of the library or the secret garden. But I just felt like the photos kind of gave black dandyism. And that's
And
the
if you don't
reason
know
why I
what
picked this
black
reference. Dandyism is basically it was a political statement, a basically a freedom movement to remove those stereotypes that black people have that we're all thugs and we're ghetto and we're this and that, when honestly that it really baffles me that people still think that, even though every culture has some sort of gang culture, not just black people. And the way people dress, at least in black culture, is a way of identity and self-expression. So when you're expressing yourself in these type of ways, it gives you a different impact. Well, that's basically the message that we're trying to send you, that we're not thugs and that we shouldn't be treated as less of a human because of our skin color. Just love it, honestly. Like, black dandyism is just so elegant, and because it's so elegant, I just had to like put this in my painting. I feel like people don't talk about it enough, and I wanted to give it a light to talk about it. Now in the painting, each of the figures are kind of coming together now. As we can see like the face, the body, kind of just like simple elements to show what each figure is doing. Okay, y'all, I figured I should probably hurry up and do my little intro before people start walking in. So basically, I'm working on this painting, and it's due in like a couple of days. Mind you, we're doing the glazing method, which takes several days or weeks because you have to wait for each layer to dry. So I have to lock in. Like, we can see how unfinished it is. Oh, wait, thumbnail. Basically, I have my setup already. Usually in this class, we do use like a wood palette. Honestly, the wood palette is not really my cup of tea, so I'm not going to be using it. I'm going to be using my glass palette that's in my figure painting class, because honestly, it's just way more space. I have all the colors out that I need to use for today, hopefully. And then we'll just see how far that we can get this painting done. Anyway, I'm going to get right into the video and hope y'all like and subscribe, and yeah, hopefully I don't crash out. Also, I figured I should probably show you guys my setup. So here is how it's looking. I just have like all the colors that I may use. Don't mind this. This is from like my figure painting class. And then like all the colors that I might use. And then here's just like a closer view. Don't mind that. I'm pretty sure someone in a different class was doing like a still life. Now, this is the point of the video where I was talking about where I start rushing, and that's pretty much where I start mixing each individual color to basically, paint like a regular person. I don't know how to say it, but basically, yeah, I wasn't doing the glazing method exactly correct. Okay, so at first, right, I just put in the blue sky and I was going to mix in yellow to make the grain and just kind of build up my colors like that instead of mixing it. Now, I don't know if this is technically wrong, but I feel like it's technically wrong because you're kind of supposed to build up each layer, and I was kind of just mixing it, and in a sense I still was building up each layer just with the exact color that I needed, instead of like building it with like, oh, a blue, a yellow, let me add a red to darken it, stuff like that. But I think this is the layer that I might just end up sanding down, not like all of it, because some of the faces ended up really looking really well after, like, painting it. And my problem is I don't even dislike the glazing process. I think when I first did it, I definitely really liked it. And if you guys have seen some of my older paintings, like the one with the apple and the snake, that was done through the glazing process, and honestly, it was amazing. And we had way more restricted colors for that painting than for this painting. And I think my the difference between the two is, for that painting, we were able to use a acrylic underlayer, like underpainting, and for this one, we had to use an oil underpainting. And I just really wish that we were able to use an acrylic underpainting. I just felt like it was more like developed in a sense. But I don't know. I just feel like it was better. But maybe if I do my own underpainting in my own way with oil, I might feel a little bit better, but because I wasn't able to achieve all of the little details in the underpainting before starting, that's kind of where my problems lied compared to like the first time I did the glazing process. The glazing process, basically, I was just adding color. With my underpainting, it did all the work already. I had all the detail, all of the designs and like the plate that the apple was sitting on. So I think that that was a much this way of glazing is a much different experience than the first time glazing. So, yeah. Even for example, like my friend, right? She had to do like a stained glass table trying to do the glazing with it, and she just had to pack on the paint. Like I don't know how she was gonna do it within the time frame that we were given, which was also another thing. The glazing process that we did in my first year of painting. Well, I was in my sophomore year, but in my first painting class, we had like I believe we had like a month or something like that. We only got through like 3 paintings, but in this class, we're like really going. So I think this is like my 3rd painting, I believe, or 4th. Honestly, I can't remember. They're all starting to like blur together. It's like really bad. Honestly, yeah, I think this is the 3rd. And we're only halfway through the semester. And compared to that class, we only got through like 3. But yeah, now we're already about to start my next project, which hopefully I'll film the process. We'll see how that goes. But pretty much, this is kind of how my painting session ends. Honestly, I really like how my friend Amoy is looking with the sunglasses. I love it. And she was one of the hardest people to paint, like in the beginning. But now my friend Coco is being pretty difficult. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Peace.